women, both in the formal and informal economy, are in precarious employment conditions. Why is it the case that women are in these precarious employment situations, and how precarious their work will affect them? Their precarious situation renders women in vulnerable positions. It affects their health, their psychosocial problems, their psychological well-being, the physical or social changes in behavior. It does compromise health and poor and inadequate, as a result of inadequate healthcare services that we actually get as citizens. And women are actually in precarity as a result. Their social fabric is compromised as a result. And, you know, this affects the family setup. It affects, you know, family setups. It affects their individual social well-being as a result of the poverty levels, their uncertainty. And when we talk about and look at challenges that, you know, that are as a result of this precarity, job insecurities as a result of the nature of employment that women are actually working in. I think Comrade Dale has spoken about the nature of contract work. There's 0 hours work. So a person of a worker not knowing whether she will be called, or a worker will be called to come and report for work. And when one lands at that particular workplace, you are told again, no, go back home. We were actually not really needing. So workers are facing those arrangements in workplaces. The poverty salaries or wages that workers are actually getting. The nature of work and the employment conditions are actually degrading, are inhumane in its nature. I've just spoken about issues relating to leave, the maternity benefits, breastfeeding periods, leave, menstrual leave, are issues that are directly affecting women, and both in the formal and also in the informal economy. And these are actually making the work or workers in very precarious forms of employment. So these employment benefits that are not enjoyed, which are necessary, are of necessity for women, are issues that actually don't even perhaps at times make it into those bargaining tables when we're negotiating for workers' interest and workers' rights. How can, that's, you know, in that broad question, there is something that says, how can these women be supported? There are institutions or NGOs or trade unions that are there with various programs that are meant really to be supporting women. But I think the first call is for precarious workers or precarious women to actually start self-organizing initiatives. But that will all be possible only when these institutions like SAFTU, the advice offices, the ILRIC, are also contributing by creating spaces for conscientization of these workers about their own economic positions. And in particular for us women, because we tend to shy away in terms of talking about the issues that directly affect us as women. And we think that these are second issues, you know, that come after all other issues have been dealt with. And yet, women are actually the very important sector of society. This institution is supposed to prepare creating spaces for feminist political education, so that our understanding of our challenges as women can be held to be consolidated. And we need that deeper understanding of our own oppression, so that we can be able to challenge these issues. We can be able to talk about women-related issues that make us vulnerable as women workers. Again, how do we support? How are women supported? How do we organize? We need to create spaces, or women's only spaces. So I'm talking about the political education, feminist political education spaces. I'm talking about only women only spaces, and also self-organizing initiatives. Self-organizing initiatives will be actually led and done by the very affected women who are in precarious employment conditions. So why are women more likely to be affected by precarious work as opposed to men? I just want to say that this is as a result of a capitalist patriarchal socialization of humankind. So the failures of the state in terms of providing basic services. And I want to say that these are also the issues that we think are not linked to the issues of the world of work, and not necessary to issues of the world of work, and yet they are very important. So the issue, the failure of the state or partial provision of basic services by the state, again, puts women in precarious employment conditions. The issue of failures of institutional framework, and I think Comrade Dale has spoken about the issues of the Section 198, the failures or partial failures of the CCMA, the Section 25 are actually disadvantaging, are putting women more in precarious conditions, because they're the ones are employed in masses in these insecure employment conditions. The world of work, the capitalist patriarchal world of work itself, treats women lesser to men. And we have evidence. There is research, and Comrade Dale is also speaking again around issues of wages, around issues of employment patterns, whereby majority of people who are employed in precarious workplaces or work environments are women. And thirdly, our homes and our communities, women are more likely to be affected, to be in precarious conditions compared to men. And this is as a result also of how men in those exploitative world of work are actually, are actually treated, that their violent treatment as a result of capitalism gets cascaded back into their homes and to their families. So their violent nature in the world of work gets actually transferred to families, and that really makes women's positions precarious. And that is why women would always be more in precarious positions as opposed to men. How do we actually, yes, we agree that the labor movement hasn't done so much in terms of focusing and organizing precarious workers, and in particular women workers in those precarious employment conditions. I think they more kind of focused on the employments, the full-time employment workers who and actually also the issues that they have been organizing around, which I say the issues that are more of affecting women are actually not necessarily looked after or prioritized by the labor movement, by organizations that work with workers. So it has long been, they have long been responded to workers' issues, or even to the laws in terms of the big big industries, because our laws are actually more focusing on big industries and a kind of well-organized industries where you get permanent employment. So we haven't tried to actually come up with strategies and tactics of organizing the precarious workers as to how do we actually start to challenge the laws itself. And Section 1, I mean, the work that was done by Casual Workers Advice Office are actually examples that living examples that even these laws need to be challenged, and that workers, even if they are not unionized themselves, they are able to go and represent and challenge the very same laws that we actually think that are only meant for only organized labor. And lastly, I just want to say that in the area of, how precarious work affect women, I think there must be a very focused and serious focus on looking in this area of women. And I think I want to put it back on us as women, that we start to talk about our challenges as women in the world of work, issues of sexual harassment, issues of these issues that I spoke about, of types of leave that are actually directly benefit us as women who give birth to children, as women who are actually also involved in the paid and unpaid labor, which is not recognized. We need to start to be organizing and talking and highlighting those issues. And that is why I've pointed out to say that our precarity, stems as a result of 3 areas: that the state itself, by the lack of when the state lacks to provide basic services, it relies on women, and these women are precarious once they are dealt with that, because the state doesn't recognize their contribution into the economy, the capital doesn't recognize their contribution in the economy, and yet when these services are not provided, the state obviously know who's going to take up where they left. They know that it's Black, poor, working class women that are going to go in the streets and care for the neighbor, go into the clinics and care for those women who are not given medication because they are not adequate, or optimum healthcare services in our health institutions. It's actually these women who are unemployed also, who are going to look after children, because there are no, after care centers for our children to be looked after. They are going to be cleaning the street as waste pickers when the state privatizes and those private companies don't come around and clean the streets. And these are all unrecognized. This work and contribution by these women are not recognized, and they are contributing hugely into the economy of this country. They are also affected by women who are affected by these, policies of pro-business, your neoliberal policies that prefer business and actually do less to provide or come up with a developmental approach in terms of providing, servicing the marginalized, the poor. So this precarity, as I said earlier on, doesn't necessarily really affect those who are in permanent positions of employment. It does. It hugely also affects those who are unemployed, but who are carrying on, taking on the services that were supposed to be actually undertaken by the state. So we need to be organizing. That's my point. We need to be organizing the unemployed. Our unemployed workers, women workers, are supposed to be, members and organized by these movements that are organizing, because these are workers that must be recognized. And I think some of the attempts in the Western Cape by West speakers, they were actually starting to attempt with those struggles of saying the city of Cape Town, we are doing work and under precarious conditions. So we need to be recognized as these women. We need salaries. We need to be recognized as workers also. We need to start educating these women about these issues, that you need to be voicing out. You need to talk about your struggles and the issues that you are engaged in, the precarity that you are exposed in as a result of your engagement in the labor market, whether it's recognized or not recognized. I just want to stop it there. Thanks, Com.
Thank you very much, Comrade Nandi. And before I let you go and we open up to questions and answers, you said that organized labor and trade unions haven't been doing enough to support and assist women to organize and create those spaces. What do you think they should be doing more? Us as a federation, as SAFTU, what should we be doing more to assist and support women organizing?
I think first of all is the recognition that the unemployed, women whom I've just said that are involved in precarious work need to be recognized as workers too. The precarious workers who are labor broker workers, who are casualized, they need to be recognized and to be organized. And that the method of organizing that is not only looking at permanent workers, whereby we follow the prescripts of the Labor Relations Act of issues related to stop order facilities. I think that's also another challenge for traditional trade unions, that they still focus on what the LRA prescribes. And yet I'm saying we need to explore and come up with other strategies. And the LRA needs to be challenged also, as I'm saying, that examples are out there where the LRA prescripts have been challenged. And hence today, there is that, the section 198, whether it has its own challenges, but it has been, something that we need to celebrate and something that we still need to continue and fighting so that we strengthen and win over that struggle. There needs to be a recognition. There is no recognition. I was sitting in Joburg in November listening to labor broker workers who when we were asking as to why do you say that a traditional trade union has failed you? Be substantive in your responses. And that woman said, you trade union officials would come to the plant in those firms in Johannesburg, would come to the plant and they will just call permanent workers. And they would not speak to us as labor broker workers. And I'm quoting this woman now, unquote. And I felt too good. I'm not important to be organized. I'm not recognized as a worker. And hence, I started engaging, with other labor broker workers. So my call to traditional trade unions is that we need to start, changing the strategy of engaging with what the Labor Relations Act says. Because in my view, we are following the prescripts of what the labor, and that is why we would always want to follow, even when we register, we would always want to follow those Department of Labor requirements as to, who is a trade union, how do you become a trade union? And yet, the trade union itself, SAFTU itself, articulates itself beautifully and understanding how the labor market has been changed, how the world of work has been fragmented, the new changes, which calls for new changes in terms of organizing.